Now then, people, welcome back to the Just Joe football show for the second time today, and I'm going to be live a little bit later on as well with Ben Jacobs at 6 o'clock. I'm just getting some prep ready for the Euros, because obviously there's some days, there's 3 games a day, so I'm just getting myself ready and prep for that. I was actually at the sunbeds, I was trying to fix my washer, and I got a text off Joe saying, listen, I need to speak about Brendan Aaronson. So do you fancy doing a video? And I was like, yes, of course, because as a lot of you will have seen, I've been quite positive and almost welcoming Brendan Aaronson back with open arms, if you like. He could be the missing piece in the Leeds United midfield, maybe. Could be the 10 we need. We will have to wait and see, but what it has done is obviously split the fan base. I've seen, I've done polls on my videos, but can appreciate that a lot of my viewers tend to align with my views. So you would think anyway. But on Twitter, it definitely has been a mixed bag. Some have gone as wild as to say it's comparing it with Kewell and stuff I seen in my chat yesterday, which I thought was wild. I don't think it's anywhere comparable. But it has definitely, split the fan base. So myself and Joe, we're going to have a chat and obviously address the challenges that Brendan Aaronson may face, both from the fans, from the playing personnel, etc. And just have a little discussion around Aaronson's past performances, his potential future performances, strengths, weaknesses. And just give some more context as to how we're both feeling about this. So, Joe, I'm gonna fly it straight over to you because obviously everyone's seen my yes, Brendan Aaronson's the man again, Team America, feck yeah kind of vibe. So, you're gonna temper that, I think, are you, Joe?
I think everyone needs to temper it just a little bit. I've from what appears to be a love-in that's going on between one half of the fan base and an absolute burn everything down on the other side of the fan base. There's literally no middle ground on this situation. But I obviously went early with my news video yesterday, so I got up earlier, got it done earlier, got it out earlier, and then as soon as I pressed publish, Brendan Aaronson, I was like, "Feck it, leave it. I'll come back to it tomorrow. I'll wait and see what everyone says and how much information actually starts to come in over the course of the day. I'll put something together this morning." So I did this morning. And as I was putting it together and reading through stuff, I started kind of going, I'm not sure this is what everyone thinks it's going to be. There's also some misinformation been put out there by The Athletic and then clarified by The Athletic. The Athletic told us that the only 2 loan release clauses that were left active were Mark Rocket and Jack Harrison. They have now told us today that, no, that was wrong. Sorry, Brendan Aaronson is one of those 2.
Yeah.
And he's waived that clause. That's not how that works. You don't just say, well, I'll waive that clause. Great. Can you sign a contract that says that? Well, no, that doesn't exist. So it is still very possible that if he gets an offer before the start of the season, he could pull a Max Vober on this. So right now, the other thing is, I watched Don't Go to Bed Just Yet. I tried to get as much detail and much opinion from all sides on this before putting it together. And I should caveat everything I'm going to say by just saying first, any single player that puts a Leeds United shirt on, I will back. And I will give an opportunity to and a chance. But then it's up to them to prove it. And I think Brendan Aaronson, before I get on board with this, needs to prove something. Because right now, as over the last 2 seasons, he's proved very, very little in terms of being an active number 10. I also get the arguments around, well, dropping into the championship, look at Junior Firpo, look at Dan James. And I get all of that, and I appreciate all of that. That's not necessarily a guarantee of success for Brendan. The obvious conversations around Brendan are to do with his strength and getting knocked off the ball. Happened in the Premier League consistently to the point that I don't think anybody got annoyed at Brendan Aaronson's lack of effort, because he never puts a lack of effort. He always gives 100%. That's never been there. But what really wound people up was him going to ground as often as he did. That's not going to change. That's not going to change. He did it in Germany to the point where the president of the club said he needs to bulk up. The manager said he needed to bulk up. And then Brendan did an interview himself where he said he doesn't really see it as a problem. That's just his game. So there was no self-awareness there to say 2 sets of fan bases, clubs and management have told you over the last 2 years, you're not physical enough for this level. Get more physical. And you've brushed it off as, well, that's just not my game. I'm fine. You're not fine. You're not. Last season was an underwhelming season where he completed 90 minutes twice in an entire season for a player that cost 25 million. The other part to this is they're saying in a piece from Graham Smith this morning is Brendan spoke to Daniel Farke. They've had a conversation, and Brendan is keen to build bridges. It is very easy to build bridges when you have no other option. No one is knocking on the door for Brendan Aaronson right now. After 2 lackluster seasons, the idea of paying 100% of his wages could be enough to turn teams off, even just at his salary expectations. So there's no huge offers for Brendan floating around right now. That could change over the course of the summer. But I just think the expectation and some of the stuff, there have been very selective clips of Brendan Aaronson in the Premier League shared this morning around, look what he could do. I was like, yeah, but look at what he did. We have historical information here to look at and not pick out 1 or 2 YouTube clips and go, great.
I feel like I'm getting shot at here.
No, not at all. But no, I've seen, I commented on a few this morning ago that they're very selective clips.
Yeah, no,
you know, of what was a very underwhelming season by that player who ultimately by the end of the season was a sub. Right. So, and then you look at what he's done. If you take his last 3 campaigns, RB Salzburg played 26 games, scored 4 goals, got 5 assists. Probably his best campaign, the Austrian Bundesliga. Then you go Leeds, 1 goal, 3 assists in 36 games. Union Berlin, 2 goals, 2 assists in 30 games. The comparison for this as well is he's a number 10. His job is to get assists and score goals. That's his job. Be part of the creative part of the team. Georgie didn't get the goals last season, but by Jesus, did he get the assists last season? You know, huge amount. Max Vober outperformed Brendan Aaronson in front of goal last season in the same division in 2 teams that were pretty much in and around the same place in the division. Vober got 2 goals and 3 assists as a centre-back. So the excitement of Brendan coming back isn't there for me. But what I would say is he has to prove himself when he comes back, and he doesn't get a free pass from me back to Leeds. Like, welcome back, open arms. We've missed you, buddy. You know, you're not my American boy yet. You gotta take some time here. You've got to go and prove yourself again, because Willie Gnonto had to do it. Willie Gnonto went on strike at the start of the season. Everyone was fuming over it, but we all said the same thing. He has to win the fans back, and he has to prove he wants to be here. Brendan, from some portion of the fan base, seems to be getting a free pass at that part, and it's just welcome back with open arms. I'm not there. I will support the kid when he goes out on the pitch in a Leeds shirt. I would never boo a Leeds player. I never have. I never will. But when he goes out on the park, he has to prove to Leeds United fans this was worthwhile, because he's expensive at this level.
Yeah. Yeah, listen, and I'll respond to a lot of what Joe's just said there, you know, there's a lot of valuable points there made by Joe. Just before we do though, let's have a chat about the clarification on it. Like, and there has been mixed reports. I agree with you, Joe, because what we did see initially was that he could have gone back to Union Berlin. He did have other offers, but decided to turn them down upon returning to Leeds. Do you think that's... Because I mentioned it at the time as well. Do you think that could be propaganda to soften the blow from his camp, from Leeds, from everybody?
100%. Because go back 3 months ago, Brendan Aaronson did an interview in Germany where he said he wanted to stay at Union Berlin, that he loved the fans, he loved the culture of the club, and he felt very at home and welcomed, and he would like to stay there. When he scored his 2nd goal of the season, which is not that long ago, Brendan ran over to the cameras going, I'm staying here, I'm staying here. So in 2 months, Brendan's had a massive change of opinion. Or no one else is interested. And Adam Pope said it on BBC. What other options does he have right now?
Yeah, I heard that this morning. Yeah, that's what I mean.
I believe that.
Yeah, there has been a little bit of misinformation, because, like you mentioned as well, around the loan clauses, we were told it was just Rocker and Harrison, and them two are going to exercise that. The rest are not, you know. And now we're being told, well, actually, Aaronson did still have one and just chose not to take Leeds up on it, because what we also have to take in, and this is what Joe Donoghue said yesterday, is the fact that if he is staying, which by all accounts he is up to this point, that he will have accepted reduced terms as well.
Yeah, 60% less.
So that's a positive though, Joe. If that is true, we don't know, but
yeah, he was still one of the most expensive players in the squad though, because Bamford's taking a 60% pay cut as well. So has Firpo, all Melier, all the players that were there all took that cut. So, he's still one of the most expensive players in the squad, so he'd have to play as one of the most expensive players in the squad.
Yeah.
And do we think he's capable of that? Because if you go back to look at last season, Willie Gnonto, Dan James, Chris Somerville, and Jorginho Rutter had lumps. They were kicked at every single opportunity to put them on the ground. They were put on the ground. And I said it in my news video this morning, in my opinion, Brendan Aaronson is going to get bounced around the championship. Like, they're going to target him. If it's a case that he forces free kicks by going down, great, that's an asset. But he doesn't, or at least I should say historically, he hasn't. He just falls over and loses the ball. There is a very good passer in there. There is a technically good player in there. But the fight has to be there, especially in the Championship. And this could be a great move for him. And I did say last year, I think a season in the Championship, would suit the player. He didn't take that, though. And also, one thing that just irks me a little bit about the exit is he didn't even wait. He was the first one out the door. He was, May 30th?
Can I give you a counter argument to that, though?
Sure.
So I agree with you. Not great, first out of the door. Maybe, had he have managed to chat and meet Farker, it might have changed his mind, right? Because Maresca had something similar at Leicester, and a lot of them decided to stay. My counter argument is, to what you've just said, is you've got to look at it, try anyway. This is the way I'm looking at it, is right, okay, so he could have stayed at Leeds on reduced terms for a season in the Championship, or moved to Germany with a Champions League club. It's a hard decision.
I don't care. Because I'm looking at it from a Leeds perspective enough. No, I don't. Because I'm a Leeds fan. And I'm looking at this. The title on this video is Fans Divided. This is I'm coming at this from a Leeds. I'm not a Brendan Aaronson fan. I'm not an individual player fan. I'm a Leeds United fan. I'm looking at this purely from a Leeds United perspective, 100%. If I look at it from Brendan's perspective, yeah, fine, fair enough. I can understand some of that. But from a Leeds perspective, and the bit that is getting me is, if he went to Union Berlin so rapidly after the season finished, that means there were talks ongoing well before he went at the end of the season, which meant he was talking about leaving Leeds before we had even been relegated. And that's not good, because we were in a dogfight to try and stay up. And we know a couple of other players were doing it as well. We know Robin Koch did it. We know Robin Koch did it. We know Jack Harrison was doing it. We know they were talking to other clubs about moves before we had been confirmed as relegated. And then the argument of the end of that campaign was the players didn't care and weren't putting the effort in. And then you find out, well, one of them went immediately after the season finished. Was it even a week after he was gone? You don't negotiate a contract in a week like that quick. Those talks were ongoing. So he was going before we'd ever been relegated. And that sticks in my throat a little bit. But as I said, that doesn't mean I'm going to boo him. I'm not one of these people on Twitter.
Can you blame him for that, though, Joe? Would you move to Spain to work for Apple if they offered you, full salary and a warmer climate, and actually dining at the same table as the owner of Apple, like Champions League in comparative?
Is the valid argument for every footballing decision? Like, if you were offered, same with Saudi, if you were offered a big bag of money, would you go? And I think that's when your morals have got to kick in and what kind of a person you are. I love Leeds. If I got 5 minutes on that pitch, I'd kill for it. Do you know what I mean? And I want players. And Liam Cooper said it, and we all danced around.
100%. Like, I
want to be here. Go off.
Yeah.
And Brendan fucked off.
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
Straight away, immediately. So that tells me he didn't want to be here, and that's the black and white for me. Do you want to play for Leeds United? He didn't. Now, two sides to it again, and I'll try and be fair with this. There is the side of, well, the last year was crap. They're on the up again. They've got a better ownership. The club was better organized. There's more, all the good stuff there. I'll give it another go. Right? Fair enough. Yeah. The other side to that is nobody else is interested in you, and Union Berlin announced that they weren't renewing your contract, not you. So don't tell me that you made the decision not to go back to Union Berlin when they announced that they weren't renewing the loan deal. So,
but the YEP are reporting that, though.
I know, but if you go back a couple of weeks ago, and this is the benefit, I suppose, I have from doing the news stuff, is I'm looking at stuff on Bild in Germany, and all these conversations are there, and they're the ones that are announcing. Like, it was weeks ago where they said they weren't renewing Brendan Aaronson's loan agreement. And we put that in the news weeks ago. Yeah, that was happening. And Ned YP are saying, well, actually, no, he had an offer. I'm not 100% convinced. I think there is a bit of propaganda on this.
Yeah, I agree with you. I do as well.
Probably a bit needed, to be fair, to temper. Yeah. But I'm split on this.
There's going to be an interview coming down the road with Brendan, isn't there? To also propaganda it, I think.
Yeah, but that'll be all cultivated, and certain questions will be answered on the official podcast. They'll have done. I mean, look, it took Willie Nanto 8 months to talk about leaving, about his threat to leave the club.
Yeah.
It took till the end of the campaign before he didn't about it.
Can I also put that to you? The Willie Nanto situation. It's almost similar. I'd argue Nanto was worse, and the reason I say it was worse, Joe, He refused to play. And had Willie Gnonto had a loan clause, he'd have exercised it. So we wouldn't
100%.
have even 100%. So I would argue that's worse. And look at the change around he had over the course of the season.
Yeah.
Do you not expect something similar with Brendan?
He has to. And that's the point. And that's what I said at the start of this round. Is that we all gave Gnonto a second chance.
Yeah.
But we all said it. Like, nobody was singing his name for a long time.
Yeah.
He wasn't getting booed and he wasn't getting abused, but nobody was singing Willie Gnonto until, I suppose, the redemption arc had kind of started to he'd gone in, he'd done the work, he'd stuck it out, he'd scored some goals, he looked like he was part of the squad. And then fans were like, okay, you've done the work, you've taken the punishment. Great. Brendan has yet to do that. And he will have to do all of that. If he does that, 100% I'll be behind the guy. And as I said, I'm not planning on booing the kid or hoping he's a failure. For Leeds' sake, I need him to be a success because we need to get out of this division next season and we need creative players. And if he can do that, great. And I've talked on your show before, Joe, going back to when we were in the Premier League as well, that I think Brendan Aaronson is a very, very good winger. I think when he's played his best games in wide positions, I think there's a bit of skill in there. I've talked about his technical ability. But from a Leeds first perspective, I think he's got a lot of work to do. I think he has to make up for what he's done. He walked out on us when we needed him, and he's walking back in when nobody else wants him. So it's all very much been to what Brendan wants. It's always been, well, I'm not happy in the Championship. I want to go and play Champions League football. Off you go. Well, no one else is interested in bringing me in. I want to go back to Leeds and try again. Oh, well, off you come then. So you're getting everything you want. And at some point, you're going to have to graft for it. You know, it's not that simple. It's not that easy. You're going to have to graft for this, pal. So if you can do that, if you can show that he's got that fight, and if he can toughen up, because he has to, he can't keep saying it's not his game and he doesn't need to. He does. He absolutely does. Or he'll spend 90% of next season on the ground because he'll be targeted.
Do you think then, do you then have to criticize, so with that then, do you have to criticise Daniel Farke because he has the final say, right? Of course, we know that there's financial elements in this deal as well because Leeds can't afford to take a loss right now. We know all this, and maybe if we could afford to take a loss, or maybe if we were to get 15 million, the club would move him on. It's been presented to Farke, look, there's an opportunity to bring back Brendan Aaronson. Ultimately, Farke tells us, and I believe it to be the case, that he has the final say on footballing decisions. That's why he's the manager. He's not a coach, he's the manager. So do you have to, do you, or do some of us have to be critical? I'm not, but I'm not saying you are, but is there a case that we have to look and say, well, Farke, you've brought him back?
I don't think he needs criticism right now because Farke will be coming at this from a purely unemotional perspective. He'll be coming about what's the best team I can put on the pitch to get promoted this year or to start the season the best way. Yeah. So for me, Farke could be looking at, look, we'll play Brendan for half a season. He'll do great and we'll get a move in January. You know, he could be looking at this and he will be looking at this from a completely ruthless decision-making process. He'll be looking at getting players in that he wants. The worry about this is, for me, is Leeds need number 10. And I hope this is not the number 10.
So I was going to ask you that. Do you think this has impacts on our transfer dealings?
I think so, yeah. 100%, I think. No,
see, I'm not sure.
Well, then you've got Aaronson. Well, there is the other argument of Farke could play with the 310s that he's done before, and maybe he fits in quite well with that. And then you've got Rutter, and you could bring in a Smodics or somebody else, and you've got those 310s, and it would look very good. And probably then end up playing Brendan in his better position, which is on the right-hand side of a 3 behind, you know, narrower. God, back to narrow again. Back to being narrow again. But he has to change his game. Maybe a preseason of Daniel Farke would be great for him, but a preseason in Germany didn't do it for him. You know what I mean? Like there's history here to say, has Brendan improved since he joined us? And I don't know if the answer to that is yes.
Yeah, I haven't
appearances would say he played in a lesser league and played less times.
Yeah, I agree. Look, I haven't seen him. I can't comment and say, yeah, he's got better. But like you said, it's not worked out. Since joining Leeds, it didn't work out at Leeds, apart from the first few games. And he didn't set the world alight. He did some good things in certain games, but again, it was very sporadic. I do think he was beasted a little bit by Jesse. He played him far too much, and you could see he was struggling and just continued to play him anyway. I was watch-alongs. You can go back and see watch-alongs where I am fuming with this kid. Do you know what I mean? I'm not trying to rewrite and say that he was amazing and therefore what a signing. I think the positive aspect.
You're allowed to change your opinion.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah, but I think, and I'll ask you this: can you see positives from Brendan in the Championship that actually you go, okay, it makes sense. Taking all the emotional side out of it, does he improve Leeds United for you?
I did a pros and cons list.
Okay.
Before I sat down. So I had a list of things to keep me honest. On the pros, ability, yeah, he's a very good passer of the ball, very clean passer of the ball, can be quite creative. And then again, there's the argument to say, well, James and Ferbo looked fantastic at Championship. He could look fantastic too. There's that argument. He can press like a crazy person. That suits Daniel Farke. He presses quite well. Although Farke presses with a striker first and then his three.
Imagine him and James, though, pressing.
Yeah.
You know, that's great.
100%. Wouldn't mind. Your man Silas that Leeds were linked with, and Dan James, because there's two absolute speed merchants. Like, that would be amazing. But yeah, he can do that. But then the negatives are the physicality of the Championship, and is he up to it? Because he wasn't up to the Premier League and he wasn't up to the Bundesliga. You know, his best seasons have come in the MLS and the Austrian Bundesliga. You know, that's the level we're talking about. And you're hoping that there's a really good player in there. You would hope that the Medford Messi pops his head up next season and runs the Championship wild, which is possible, which is absolutely possible. And I'm split on this. I'm not saying that I want the kid to be a success. I want everyone who puts a Leeds shirt on to do well and be a success. I backed Jesse Marsh for longer than I should have as a manager because I wanted him to be a success so that Leeds would be a success. And that's always the primary goal behind this. I'm not saying Leeds shouldn't bring Brendan Aaronson back. He is coming back. That is a fact. That's a reality. There's nothing you can do about it. But let's give this a bit more time than we've given it. I think the jury for me is very much still out on Brendan. I think we need to get through the entire transfer window without that clause being activated, because
I don't think it's there, bro.
Later.
I think, like you say, I think it's PR. I don't think it's there.
The thing about it is, it's the Athletic twice. Phil Hay said it was Roca and Harrison. The Athletic said it's Aaronson and Harrison are the two, which means Roca's not part of it at all, which but maybe is why they're trying to do a permanent deal.
Maybe not, but
maybe we don't. It's not clear. It's not clear. So if there is still an agreement there, then that needs to be watched until the end of the window, because again, he could pull a Vober on it, and an offer could come in for 15 million for the player. That clears our transfer owed. We paid 10 million as far as the last.
Well, he could have a good Copa America, couldn't he? Because he's in the squad, although he doesn't start, but he could have
play
a
lot.
Copa. Yeah, it doesn't.
Yeah, same in the World Cup. I thought he'd go to the World Cup and play well, and he didn't pick a ball. You know,
I think he made some sub appearances. I remember watching the games. He barely played.
Barely played. But like, there's plus sides from a footballing perspective, but but the minimum requirement is gonna have to toughen up. He's got, like, you look at Georgie last year. How many times did he get kicked and stay on his feet and roll players and scramble and, you know, fight for a ball? Willie did to a lesser degree. And my biggest gripes by the end of the season, and by the playoff final, I was shouting at Willie, get off the ground, get up off the ground. I was getting tired of watching him complaining and sitting down and waving his hands. I was really starting to get to the point where Willie was like, I'm tired of looking at you complaining. Can you get on with the game and play football? Yeah. Brendan was like that in the Premier League. So if Brendan does that in the Championship, Leeds fans will get very frustrated with him very quickly again. You know, he needs to toughen up and he needs to fight. That's it. If he does that, everything else is there. But the question mark is now, after 2 seasons in 2 top divisions where both have criticized that aspect of his game, does he have the understanding, the will, and the self-awareness to go and work on that? To go in the gym during the summer, to work on his core strength. He doesn't have to get muscly. He just needs to get stronger in his core, like, and that, and be able to hold off footballers, which should be at this level.
He needs a bigger ass as well, as mad as that sounds. He needs to get squat.
Or learn how to use it.
Yeah,
or learn how to use it.
Yeah,
I was never a big player, but I had managers that used to say to me, just stick your arse out. Just stick your arse back into players and put your hands forward and make yourself big as you can. If you can do that, there's footballing ability there, but the footballing ability doesn't matter if the strength isn't there.
Yeah,
if he can't hold off players, if he can't beat players, if he can't win physical battles, if he presses and has to get into a 50-50 with somebody and loses every time, then the press is irrelevant. You know, so it all comes back to one aspect of his game. And I wish, for his sake, he would understand that this is an issue he needs to sort. You know, you called him Rizzler paper. I mean, before.
I still stand by that. Yeah.
No, I'm not saying you shouldn't. I'm saying, but that's the comparison too. And a year on, he still doesn't see it as an issue. And they're his words.
I mean, I don't know if I've still got this. I'll have to retire this, by the way. But let me have a look, see if I've still got it. I have. I have to retire that now. I'm on the Brendan Brendan fucking hype train. No more. And have you seen that, by the way, that Weston McKennie's getting involved in a swap deal with Douglas Luiz? It's fucking insane. At Villa.
Have to offload. Do you hear they labelled him as legendary playmaker? Weston McKennie.
Crazy. It's crazy.
Sorry, what?
I know.
Wasn't that a really good right back last year?
I've been speaking to Bill over the last few days, who's a Villa fan, and he was like, "Oh, it's bullshit." And then obviously now it's Fabrizio Romano, and that I mentioned it. He's trying to come round and tell me actually it might be a good deal, and I went, "Stop this now, stop this now."
He did have a good season last year. It should be said he did, but he was playing on the right hand side of the midfield or right back for a lot of the time.
Right. Okay.
So, but he did have a decent season.
Hang on.
But I suppose I should say I don't. Like I said again, I hope he's a success. There's bits of this that I'm not sold on.
Yeah, well, listen, I hear you. Just while we're on that, let me just ask you another question, Joe. And I think this is something that we do need to think about. We did the second chance. I think you were on that one. Do they deserve a second chance? You were. And we spoke about the two that we believed were the most likely to come back. And that was Brendan Aaronson and Christensen. Now, obviously, Brendan Aaronson's come out. Do you think there is a possibility, because I do, that further kicking the can down the road, especially if he doesn't have a great Euros, that Christensen comes back as well, because he's had a similar season to Brendan?
He's had a worse season.
Yeah, exactly.
He's been hammered by the Italian media whenever he starts games. He got absolutely ripped apart by the Danish media after his first friendly a week ago in the warm-ups. He got absolutely ripped apart by the Danish media. Rasmus Christensen, when he played wing-back for Roma, played his best football. As a full-back, not so much. His best game for Leeds was centre midfield against Arsenal. You know, the problem is this, and this is very to your earlier analogy of if Apple offered me a job, would I walk away from Microsoft and go over there? Yeah. But if Daniel Farke and Greta Steinson and Parag may have sat down and gone through everything, and Farke's gone, I want a 10 and I want a right back. And then Parag's gone, you've got both of them already. Yeah, I don't want those two. That's what you're getting.
Yeah.
If there's money there, and if Parag said all of the investment goes on the Parag, and I've been trying to put out fires on my channel over the last couple of days, people going, we're broke again, clearly you're broke, look at this, you know.
Yeah.
And like you said, wait until the 30th of June deadline passes for PSR. Wait till that passes, and then you have the entire month of July to formulate your opinion on what the window's like and how we are. But we can't have it go into August like we did last year. But that will tell me if Leeds have got money or not. But if we're looking at keeping Christensen and Aaronson for two positions that we needed to get better quality in, then what are we spending money on? Or are we spending money? And that's just the thing to keep in the back of the head until July. Like, are we just pulling that money to get a better player? Maybe it's a bigger player. Maybe you might have to pay 10, 15 million for Smodics. I keep saying Smodics like we're linked with him or not, but that kind of player. Maybe that's what they're doing. They're going to start, look, let's make savings where we can, and let's put the bulk of the money into the one or two to get real quality into the squad. And that could be the case, but it's I'm not sure.
There's something in there what Russell has said there.
Yeah, it's not much.
I think there is a lot of that. There is, we get tagged in. Shout out to Wanderless, the most pessimistic of Leeds fans, going straight away, says, we've got no money because we're keeping Cooper and Shackleton, and then we've got no money because Aaronson's staying. Ultimately, we can't get rid of. Look, if we take out what we believe to be propaganda, it might be true, it might not be, but ultimately where this comes down to, for me, is financially. Financially, the club can't afford to take a loss on Aaronson right now. They've gone to Farke. Farke says, yeah, I can use him, 100%. Aaronson's probably got no offers. Yeah, I'll come back. This is where it's at. This is nothing to do with, we're now not going to buy that player because we got him. I don't think so. Look, if the club want to try and tell us that we've got no money, then I call BS, because I'm like, well, why did you then get a deal with, Red Bull, and we're told it's the biggest EFL deal ever?
You've also got Will Ferrell and Russell Crowe's investment. That investment, and Parag said the investment will go on the field. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, exactly, mate. I agree with you. And then also, on top of that, you're then going to be bringing in money for Somerville, for Nanto, and for potentially other players as well. unless that's the flip, unless we don't sell anybody.
I can't see that.
I can't.
Somerville's going, isn't he? Like, have you seen who's interested now? Newcastle, Chelsea, and Liverpool. Like,
yeah.
I'm speaking to Ben Jacobs at 6 p.m. and it'd be interesting to get his take on it. But that tells me bidding war, Joe. Bidding war.
Which is perfect because Todd Bowley likes a bidding war and we want that money. Yeah, so great. Exactly. I think Romano said 35 million is the starting price. Not a bad place to start.
No, exactly, mate. Exactly.
But I suppose I'm just playing all sides against the middle here, trying to figure out what's going on. And we won't know until July what's really going on. But maybe one of the options is Leeds don't sell anybody. But then that's a fantastic opportunity. Then I don't see a situation where Brendan Aaronson plays 10 and Georgie Rutter gets pushed back into number 9 again next season.
I can't.
We don't have time to mess around next season. We can't wait for players to click or things to click. They've got to hit the ground running. We've said this at the end of the season. There's no excuses next year. There can't be any excuses.
No, they can't. No, and I will be front and centre being critical of that if we don't get off to a flyer and they have a poor window. But I will save that until the window is shut.
Until it happens.
Yeah. Like we had this with the amount of scaremongering going on in January, and then we signed Connor Roberts, So, I think, just let them do what they're going to do, and then we'll see what happens at the end of it. And look, now we can look back with hindsight and say, did we do enough in January? No, we didn't. We probably didn't. Ipswich did, Southampton did. We didn't, ultimately. But until that happens, then, I'll keep my powder dry. I know I didn't last summer, but that was almost a continuation of the previous. And now there has been a line drawn in the sand between them and Rads, for me anyway. And that's why, I'm willing to give them tags. They're not really steered us wrong up to yet.
No.
Just saying this, Ice Lord, I think that's been taken out of context because someone else said that to me earlier, and what he actually said was Somerville's not going to push for a move. He's going to respect the football club, right, Joe? He's not going to be going, sell me now, like Nonto did.
No, he basically said he wouldn't push for a move away from the club. That doesn't mean he's not going to leave. He's not going to do a Nonto on it. He's going to do it the right way. And also, there's a lot of interest in him, and Leeds, and he's very aware Leeds probably need to sell him anyway.
Of course.
His post for the end of the season, we'll see it next year. That left the door open a little bit to whether he's back or not. But again, it could just be about closing out the season in the right way. Cree doesn't strike me as a fool. He strikes me as a clever young fella, and he's doing things the right way. And
he
he'll want to be remembered
as well. He went into Bielsa's,
absolutely he does.
Bielsa's bloody and had a word with Bielsa saying, I want to play, weren't he? He was saying back then, I want to play. I don't know what's happened.
Last season, he turned around when Rafinha left and went, give me the number 10 shirt. That's backing yourself. 100%. And now look at him, you wouldn't look at anybody else's number 10 because it suits him.
Yeah.
So,
Joe says here, it's just sensible to not force a move because it's going to happen anyway. And if he tries to be a dick, the 49ers could be a dick back. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
So
you can stay now.
Yeah, exactly. You can say now. Exactly.
I saw reports this morning
Go on, mate.
that we were going that it was. I can't remember who it was. I was going to put it in the news, and then I read it and I went, "It's not going to happen." Somebody saying that Leeds are prepared to sell Georgie Rutter, are getting ready to sell him right now. I'm like going, great, because we can't sell Brendan for 15. Who's paying 35 for Georgie? Because that's a massive loss if we let him go for and no one's paying 35 million for Georgie right now.
And that's why, I've been more, to be honest, as a fan, the way we've seen how they dealt with the Aaronson deal and the finances behind it, I'd actually be more worried about selling Gray than I am Rutter.
Yeah.
Because Gray's pure profit. No, I don't either. But if I'm looking at it like that, there's more chance of us selling Gray than there is Rutter, because Rutter would be a loss, whereas Gray would be pure profit, whatever you sold him for.
Yeah. Or Mez.
Yeah, Mez as well, yeah. Oh. Is it me or is it Joe that's gone? Let me know in the chat. Oh, is he back? Is it me? There, he's back. Right, okay, you're back. Were you going to say something?
I was saying Mez, you could sell Mez. That's pure profit as well, pretty much.
100%.
You paid very little for him. You get 50 in Chelsea, apparently, again. Give us your money, Todd Bowley. You've got too much of it.
100%. I do just want to respond to Stevie, because Stevie, I can see you're very, very angry about this whole situation. I don't think they owe us an explanation. Ultimately, the club think you can do a job, and I back them in that respect. Why would we want him? Well, he can add something to us. I think, Joe, can I ask you that? If we still go out and get the players that we need, and he doesn't stop us getting a number 10, does Aaronson make the squad stronger for you?
I think so. I think if you look at the bench last season, what came off the bench, I'm with Stevie on an emotional
On an emotional level, yeah. I think that's what he's saying.
Like, it's the same. That went again, did it? Sorry.
Yeah. Go start again. You're with Stevie on
the emotional, from an emotional perspective. 100% there. I get that. I'm totally with him. I've said it before, like, turn your back on Leeds to me is like walking on my flag. It's you don't do that. Side before self, and it actually means something to me. It might not mean anything to a player who isn't a Leeds fan, never played for Leeds before last year. Fair enough. But I think if you look at the squad and how Daniel Farke used his bench last year, I think Brendan Aaronson's better than Jamie Shackleton. I think he's probably a better option off the bench than most of the defensive players. It means we're not putting 2 goalkeepers on the bench. So yeah, there's value. There is value there for him, as long as the manager sees it and will play him. We talked about Farke not trusting that bench last year, not using everybody that was on it. He needs players this year he can turn around and go, you're going to change the game, in you come. I would, yeah. Now, I understand, again, Stevie's perspective, but I would hold back a little and I would wait. Because
Stevie's always furious anyway, aren't you, Stevie?
I get this, though, and I'm just saying, we all said it. I didn't want to see any of the lads. I keep referring them as the exiles. I didn't want to see any of them back at the club. Now there's talk about Harrison coming back now as well. And we're like, are we going to celebrate that one as well?
I mean, I would. I quite like him, don't I, though? So
for the two spells of a season where he does well, the start and the end. And his mum, who said absolutely no way he's going back to Leeds.
Yeah,
and
we have a thing of upsetting. We have a thing upsetting footballers' mums, don't we? Yeah.
But she goes to all of those games. She's Jack's biggest fan.
Yeah.
Do you think that's something that she's formalized in her own head, or do you think that's come from Jack?
Well, if she's at games, she'll have heard the abuse he gets. We are unforgiving, I think.
Oh yeah, but that's nothing unusual. Every fan base is. He got dogs abuse off the Everton fans by the end of the season as well.
Joe makes a great point. And I think I would ask everyone, because I actually think that Aaronson will end up being one of our better players next season. And I know that might seem wild for somebody to do. But even, let's say he is a bench option. Is he better than Sam Greenwood or Gelhardt, says Joe? And I agree with him. I think he is.
Well, that's the question, not what Joe's asked. Joe said, would you play Aaronson over Greenwood and Gelhardt, bearing in mind both of them won't play? So, would you play a player over 2 players who don't play?
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah.
But
even on the bench, are you more confident with Greenwood with Aaronson on the bench over them two?
I think he's a better player than the 2 lads there. Yeah, but they wanted to be here, and they've been punished for wanting to stay at Leeds where he didn't, and he's been rewarded by being welcomed back by open arms by people. It could be the best move, and I could be here in 3-4 months' time saying, fantastic idea.
I'll say I told you so.
But what I'm saying, and I will very clearly caveat this of saying, I am not going to get on this player's back. I am not abusing him. I am not going to boo him. I want him to be a success. Yeah. I have just got question marks around the aspects of his game that he needs to improve on, and whether he realizes that himself. That's my biggest problem. And I don't want us to stop us from bringing in, but we clearly need there's more options in the number 10 position.
Yeah. So in terms of, obviously it's all links, it's all noise at the minute, Joe. You do the video, you have your finger on the pulse, you read a lot of stories and stuff. It's all just, there's not really anything. I think the only ones that I think are credible up to this point, and I don't know how you feel, is Alfie Gilchrist, I think, has got a bit of weight to it, and Somerville exit. Everything else is just noise at the minute. I don't know what you think.
There's a couple popping up at the moment that are starting to look like Nick Hammondy type signings, and McNulty was linked this morning. Your man,
what a name he's got, by the way, Spanish Irish, like he's mad. He reminded me of Alexis McAllister, the Argentinian Scotsman,
who also, by the way, has family in Donamead in Dublin, so that's where his comes from. He's came through Betis, has played underage for Ireland. I think one of his parents is Irish, clearly, because it's McNulty. Decent fullback, but primarily a centre back, but left-footed. Could be a left-back option there. Yeah. Leeds did look at him in January. He was heavily linked in January with a move at the time as well. So it's not the first time he's popped up, which makes me think maybe there's something in that. And then the Driush, who was linked, who's the
winger, right? The winger from Excelsior, which I think Joe's mentioning there, which we spoke about earlier on. See, with that in sync, I can finish his sentences for him. His mouth's not even moving, and I know what he was about to say. Druyec, yeah, he's back.
Druyec, yeah. What was it? Shohab Druyec.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's very similar to Chris Somerville in terms of the type of player that he is. He likes to cut inside, likes to shoot, similar profile to Chris. So maybe there's something that, but PSV are sniffing around him, so unlikely that we get him. There's a couple that might be something. They're the right positions, but then it's easy to pick up what Leeds need right now. We all know what Leeds need right now.
What is that for you, Joe?
Right back, left back, probably another centre back, advanced number 8 and a 10 minimum.
Yeah. Are you like me then? Do you think we just leave the number 9 alone?
If it's Joseph starting next season up front, yeah.
Yeah.
We're not going to sell Paddy.
Yeah, we've got 3 players that can play there. I don't think they'll see that as an area of the pitch that needs improving now.
Not a priority, I wouldn't imagine.
Yeah,
right
that's
now.
The word. Yeah,
although you could argue Leeds missed probably one of the most big. Leeds missed some of the biggest chances of the campaign. Look at how many big chances Georgie created last season, and many of them actually ended up in the back of the net. Argument could be we do need a better striker, but again, Farke's got a full preseason with Pirro to tell him this is pressing, do it.
Yeah,
it's now your job.
Do you think
go and do it?
Do you think we'll get anywhere close to that Norwich performance that we got from Pirro next season? Because that's the only really standout 9 performance he gave us, right?
Yeah, I think it has to be. I think that has to be his goal, is to do that on a more consistent basis. The problem is it's the outlier. He hasn't done that any other time. So, he's, and for his own sake of his career, he's young enough player to be able to adapt. Like, he's 24. Like, you can adapt, you know? I just don't understand that. When someone says, oh, well, he doesn't press as well, get better at it then. Just do your job. Get better at doing the thing you're not good at doing. It's not like you haven't got all day, every day in training to work on this. You do.
On the summer, right?
Go and sort it. Yeah, but then you've got Joseph, who I'm excited about next season. If we put the right players around him, we've again talked about that last year a bit as well. As long as supply is there for Joseph, I think he's a finisher. But yeah, it's not the priority position, but I think right back, left back, centre back, advanced 8 and a 10 are the priorities for me. Unfortunately, I just don't want that to be Aaronson and Christensen as 2 of those, so I just don't. Christensen would suit the Championship. He just bulldoze through people and kick lads. Great, but that's... Is it a stopgap for a year? Is he better than Archie Gray? No. Is he better than Luke Ayling? Still no. Still not better than Luke Ayling. No. So for me, it's a backward step at right back if you do that. And you end up in a situation where you're probably looking at bringing a right back in at Christmas because he's not being good enough. Or Archie ends up back there.
To round off, mate, just going back to Aaronson, what constitutes a successful season for you? Someone asked me... Someone asked me for a bet yesterday, because it was actually Danny from Not Another Leeds pod. And I said he'll be a success. He said he'll not. And he put up 20 G&A. And I said that's too much. I think that's combined. Combined. But that's Somerville. Right. That's Somerville. That's Schmodix. That's Armstrong. That's Whittaker. I think we're asking too much. Or do you think 20 G&A should be?
None of those players cost 25 million, around 75 grand a week. None of those players are in that.
No, I get that, but like Anthony was 90 million and he's shit.
Yeah, none of the players you mentioned played Champions League football. He has.
Man, I think you're being harsh.
And not just once. Not just once. He played it when he was at Salzburg as well.
He played all 6 Champions League games for them last season. You know, he played in the Bernabeu.
Yeah. So for me, going to the Championship, and if you look at what Georgie did last season, Nanto, he needs to be double figures in at least one of the categories. And I don't mean if he ends with no goals, he needs to be coming in with 16, assists. 17 assists like Georgie did this year.
Yeah.
Because otherwise we're not at the top. If he doesn't do those numbers, we're not at the top.
Yeah. So do you think 20 G&A constitutes a good season or great season or what? What do you expect?
It's a really good season. We can do 20 and 20, but I want double figures in assists minimum.
Yeah.
Minimum, because Dan James did it.
Yeah, fair. No, that's fair. That's fair. Maybe 20 G&A is fair. I just
goals might not be Aaronson's thing. They're clearly not his thing. He's got what did I say in last 3 seasons, 92 games, he scored 7 goals. So scoring goals clearly isn't his thing, but the assists, he's got 10 assists. That needs to get better. Like in 3 seasons of playing 92 games, he's got 10 assists.
I think in the Championship, mate, he's just gonna
has to be bigger.
He's gonna rip it up.
He could. He's definitely got the ability to rip it up if the desire is there. But he has to do it. He can't come in with 3 and 5 at the end of the season, because if he does do that, then he's probably spent most of the season on the bench, or we're relying on other players to pick up the slack. Because Leeds are not going to have a 20-goal season, Chris Somerville, next year to bank on. They're going to have to get goals from other players. And if he's the replacement, he's got to score those goals.
Yeah, I agree. Let me just respond to this, because this, I don't know why does he get
it's got nothing to do with Harry Kewell.
I don't know why he keeps getting brought up. I don't even like to speak his name. The guy's a Judas. This is not comparable whatsoever. He went to play for a club.
Leeds over to make money going to Liverpool, and then he went and signed for Galatasaray. Not comparable.
And he called them the best fans in the world. This came out of his mouth. This is not comparable. Stop trying to push this narrative. He's an absolute disgusting human being. And I hate even saying his name. So why do we do this? I don't know. I don't know what your point is there. That because he played in the Burnbow Follies, and what? Like, I don't get your point. And I don't get those that are comparing fucking Brendan Aaronson, who, by the way, it was the club's fault, had a clause in his contract. It was the club's fault, not his, right? So I don't even know why we keep doing this. So stop doing it. Stop doing it. Because it's fucking disgusting to even have to speak and think about that man's name, right? So don't even talk to me about that guy. No, I will not relax. I will not relax. Stop telling me to relax as well. So yeah, anyway, sorry, Joe.
You're right. I get that. Sure, Stats refers to him as the Australian. You know what I mean? Like I'm the same. I don't use that club's name in my videos. Like I would refer to him as that club in Turkey. Yeah, you know, exactly. I blanked out their badge when I had to put an image on the screen last year. I just make sure, but fine. If I had to put a picture of one of your players that were being linked to it, fine. But I'm blanking out your badge. I'm not putting that on the screen. Yeah. There's very good reasons for that, you know, and not only historically. You look at what the Manchester City fans did when they went over there to memorialise Chris and Kev, and then the Galatasaray fans went and ripped it up immediately after they'd moved on. So it's not a comparable thing. He went there.
Ever. And it's the fact that he called them the best fans in the world, because he is, and this didn't even make national news, by the way. He is the real kicker. On the anniversary of Chris and Kev's death, 1 year, Schneider released a commemorative kitchen knife set on the anniversary of their death. He then later pulled it out and said he wasn't aware of it. But don't tell me someone at that football club was not aware of the significance of the date. They're horrible, they're disgusting, and like Jer says, I don't even like to speak about him. So the fact that man who played for this football club and came and was at that game had the audacity to call them the best fans in the world, then nah. Don't even get me started on that.
Great.
Yeah. Sorry.
No, completely agree with you. Completely agree. And they're not comparable situations. As you said, the club put an exit clause in Brendan Aaronson's contract, and he exercised that clause. Kewell screwed Leeds over to get out of the club, and then did what he did afterwards. Yeah. Unforgivable, in my opinion. Brendan, at very worst case scenario, he walked out on the club that got relegated to go and play Champions League football.
And we gave him the opportunity to do that.
We gave him the opportunity to do that. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. Like I think, and as also, well. Not. Let's be honest, Joe. Somerville. Maybe look. Think of all the players. Let's say all of our players had these loan release clauses included. Their agents would have got them out of that fucking football club quicker than we could have blinked. I'm telling you right now.
You wouldn't have had Sinister and Adams threatening to sue the club. They would. Nope. I mean, that's the other. That's the one you should be comparing him to. Sinister and Adams, who threatened to sue Leeds to leave and got their move because of that. Aaronson didn't do any of that. I had that conversation with people on Twitter, and if people going, well, he doesn't deserve to be abused and we shouldn't be booing him. I was like, no one is saying that any of that is going to happen. This is from a professional footballing perspective and nothing else. There is a bit of emotion from being a Leeds fan, but there is no level of potentially abusing this player or booing this player. None of that is here. This is very much about, do I think Brendan Aaronson is capable of playing the Championship? I think he's going to have a tough physical season unless he adapts to it, unless he addresses that. That's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Exactly. Yeah,
and ideally, I would like the players that left Leeds to stay gone.
Yeah.
But if they do come back, they've got some making up to do. And if they can walk on broken glass and put their hands in the air and apologize and get out on the pitch and do it, the exact same rules that we said for Willie Gnonto.
Yeah.
Fine.
Yeah. By the end of August, everyone could be singing the fucking American Boy chant again. Because all he needs to do, all he needs to do is have some barnstorming performances, and I think in this division he will. Yeah.
He'll run around. He'll cover huge amount. Look at his heat maps in Berlin. He covers huge amount of ground. He's not as effective as he could be. But then Dan James was criticised in the Premier League for not being effective. He just ran around an awful lot.
Yeah.
Came into the Leeds team last season. I think the word we used for most of the season was Dan James is effective. He gets goals. He gets assists. He's effective. If Brendan can do that, he goes an awful long way to get the monkey off the back and appeasing the fan base, who a lot of them will be looking at this with a very skeptical eye, as I am.
Yeah.
But Leeds fans will be very happy to be proven wrong if it means the club is doing better than they expected, and we have no issue with that.
Win football matches. Ultimately, this is the world that we're in. You win football matches,
Everything's forgotten.
Yeah, everything's forgotten. Listen, folks, on your way out, please, if you're watching on playback, let us know your thoughts on the Brendan Aaronson chat. Please smash the like. We've got 150, but there's nearly 500 people watching, so let's get that smashed up. Please make sure you check out Leeds United, The View, as well, because I know a lot of you will be subscribed as well, but if you want to keep your finger on the pulse of all the latest Leeds United news, from loan watch to fucking transfer links to stadium builds to everything you ever want that's encompassed in Leeds United, Joe's got you covered, so make sure you check that out. And obviously he's got a podcast running as well, so make sure you check out that. I'll be back at 6. I'll be back at 6 p.m. with Ben Jacobs. So if there's anything you want me to ask him, get it in the chat, and we'll ask him that as well. And then that'll be a lot, I think, for me from the night. But I'm gearing up for the Euros. Joe, I know you don't have a dog in the fight, but who's your pick for the Euros, just out of interest?
I think England.
Do you?
Should be winning. Yeah, I think this is one of the best chances you're ever going to have. I think the next 2 tournaments you've got a cracking chance of winning one of the two. But I think you've got a really good chance of winning this. I would have said Holland, but they've lost 2 big players now leading into it. Yeah. So I think Portugal will be there.
Portugal
as well.
Portugal, France, Germany, England are probably going to be my picks, I think. Hopefully England can do it, but I just worry about us defensively against the better teams. But
you never say no to Italy in a competition either, in a knockout tournament. They can
Andrea will remind us of that. Don't worry about that. I think we're doing a Euros preview on Wednesday or Thursday, so we can have a chat. Not Croatia, Jared, man. Surely they're too old now. The likes of Brozovic and Modric and all that. Surely they're too old now. Surely they're too old. Yeah. Anyway, we'll leave it there, folks. Thanks as always for watching. I'll see you in a bit. Bye-bye now.